A poor little girl answered a call in German in front of a millionaire CEO. The next day he had her called in. Before anything else, if this video finds you well, wherever you are, let me know how it made you feel at the end. Emma Warren carefully balanced 3 plates along her arm as she navigated through the bustling corporate cafe of Brooks Enterprises. The aroma of fresh coffee and business ambition filled the air equally. 5 years ago, she would have never imagined herself here, not like this anyway. "Order up for table 7, she called out, her voice betraying none of the exhaustion that had settled into her bones after the 6-hour shift. At 29, Emma's eyes still held the spark of the brilliant Georgetown University student she once was. Her international relations degree, earned with honors, now collected dust in a frame beside her bed in that tiny Bronx apartment she could barely afford. In the corner of the cafe, partially hidden behind a large potted plant, sat 7-year-old Lily. Her golden hair fell across her face as she concentrated on a worn German storybook. The little girl's blue eyes, so like her absent father's, darted occasionally to check on her mother. "Moody," Lily whispered when Emma passed by during a brief lull. "How many more hours?" Emma knelt beside her daughter, straightening the collar of Lily's simple dress. "Just 2 more, sweetheart. Are you hungry? I can bring you a muffin." "Nein, danke," Lily responded in perfect German. "I'm saving room for our special dinner." Her smile revealed a missing front tooth. Emma's heart tightened. Their special dinner would be pasta with a bit of cheese. It was all they could afford until payday. School vacation meant paying Mrs. Rodriguez extra for childcare, and this month's rent increase had stretched their budget beyond breaking. "Your pronunciation is getting better every day," Emma said, tucking a strand of hair behind Lily's ear. "You'll be teaching me soon." "Professor Muller said I speak better than the 4th graders," Lily announced proudly, referring to the elderly German neighbor who sometimes gave her informal lessons. A sharp voice cut through their moment. "Emma, table 12 needs service." Emma squeezed her daughter's hand. "Remember, stay quiet, don't bother anyone, and practice my reading," Lily finished, already returning to her book. As Emma hurried back to work, she caught sight of Nathan, Brooks himself, entering the cafe. The CEO's imposing presence caused an immediate ripple among the staff. Tall, with piercing eyes that seemed to evaluate everything as potential profit or loss, he rarely descended to the lower floors. Emma straightened her uniform and grabbed her order pad. 5 years of sending out resumes, of interviews that went nowhere once they learned she was a single mother. 5 years of watching her classmates advance in diplomatic careers while she served coffee to the corporate elite. Yet when she looked back at Lily, quietly sounding out German phrases, Emma felt a different kind of pride. Somehow, despite everything, she had raised a brilliant little girl who spoke 2 languages fluently at age 7. What Emma couldn't know was how their lives would change tomorrow. All because of a phone call that would soon ring through the cafe, a call that only Lily would be able to answer. But for now, she simply straightened her name tag, plastered on her professional smile, and continued serving the people who worked in the world she had once dreamed of joining. The August heat wave had transformed the Brooks Enterprises cafe into a buzzing hive of activity. Corporate employees sought refuge in iced coffees and air conditioning, making it the busiest day Emma had faced in weeks. "Mom, can I have another book?" Lily whispered, as Emma rushed past with a tray loaded with lunch orders. "I finished this one." "Check my bag, sweetie. There should be another one in the side pocket," Emma replied, balancing 4 plates precariously along her arm. "And remember, stay quiet." "I know," Lily nodded solemnly. The cafe manager's voice cut through the chaos. "Emma, the executive meeting on the 12th floor needs their lunch delivered immediately." Emma glanced anxiously at her daughter. "I'll be right back, Lily. Just 15 minutes, okay?" As Emma disappeared into the elevator with the catering cart, Lily settled back with her new book, a collection of German fairy tales. The cafe buzzed around her, staff rushing to fulfill orders, nobody noticing the small girl tucked away in her corner. Then came the distinctive ring of the cafe's phone, shrill and insistent. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3. The staff were all occupied. The manager was in the storage room. The phone continued its desperate call. 4 rings, 5. Lily glanced around. Nobody was moving to answer it. She bit her lip, remembering her mother's instructions to stay quiet and unnoticed. But the ringing continued, demanding attention. 6 rings, 7. With a decisive nod, Lily slipped from her corner and approached the counter. Standing on tiptoes, she stretched across and picked up the receiver. Brooks Enterprises Cafe. Guten Tag, she answered automatically, the German greeting slipping out from habit. There was a pause on the line, then a surprised male voice responded in fluent German. Guten Tag. This is Marcus Hoffman from Miller GmbH in Berlin. I'm trying to reach Mr. Brooks's office regarding our upcoming partnership negotiations. Lily didn't hesitate. Ein Moment bitte, she replied confidently, switching fully into German. The executives are in a meeting. May I take a message? Across the cafe, unnoticed by Lily, Nathan Brooks had entered. He stopped abruptly, coffee, cup halfway to his lips as he observed the small child speaking into his company's phone. We need to confirm the video conference for tomorrow. The caller continued in German. Our CEO has concerns about the proposed manufacturing specifications in Section 4.3 of the preliminary contract. Lily grabbed a notepad and pen from beside the phone. Section 4.3, Manufacturing Specifications. Concerns? She muttered in German as she wrote, her handwriting neat and precise. And what time would be convenient for your office? Nathan Brooks moved closer, his expression morphing from irritation to disbelief as he heard the child not only speaking fluent German but taking detailed notes. And your contact information, Herr Hoffman? Lily continued professionally. After carefully writing down the details, she concluded, I'll make sure Mr. Brooks receives this message immediately. Dankeschön. Auf Wiederhören. As she hung up, a deep voice behind her made her jump. And who might you be? Lily turned slowly to face Nathan Brooks himself, his tall figure towering over her, his expression unreadable. I'm Lily Warren, sir, she answered, her small voice steady despite her racing heart. My mom works here. The phone kept ringing and nobody was answering, so you answered it, he finished, taking the notepad from her small hands. His eyes scanned her precise notes, written partly in German. You speak German? He asked, his tone somewhere between skepticism and amazement. Yes, sir. My mom taught me. She says it will open doors for me someday. Nathan studied the child for a long moment, then looked up as Emma rushed back into the cafe, her face paling when she saw her daughter standing beside the CEO. Emma's heart pounded against her ribs as she clutched the summons that had been delivered to her first thing in the morning. The cream-colored envelope with the Brooks Enterprises logo felt impossibly heavy in her trembling hands. Please report to Mr. Brooks's office at 9 a.m. sharp. No explanation, no reassurance, just 12 words that probably meant the end of her employment. Do I have to wear my uniform today? Lily asked, straightening her small backpack. She had sensed her mother's distress since last night when Emma had paced their tiny apartment, rehearsing explanations and apologies. No, sweetheart, Emma sighed, smoothing her own carefully selected blouse, the only one without visible mending. We're not going to the cafe today. We're going to meet Mr. Brooks. Lily's eyes widened. Because of the phone call? Yes, Emma admitted, kneeling to her daughter's level. Listen to me, Lily. Whatever happens in there, I want you to know that you did nothing wrong. I'm the one who broke the rules by bringing you to work. But who would have answered the German man if I wasn't there? Lily asked with the simple logic of childhood. Emma forced a smile. That's a good point. We'll see if Mr. Brooks agrees. The elevator ride to the executive floor seemed to last forever. Emma's reflection in the polished doors showed a woman trying desperately to look composed while falling apart inside. If she lost this job, they might not make rent next month. The waitressing position had been a godsend after months of unemployment. Decent pay, regular hours, and managers who pretended not to notice when Lily occasionally accompanied her during school breaks. All that, potentially ruined by one phone call. The executive floor was another world. Plush carpeting, walnut paneling, and hushed voices. A sleek receptionist with perfect makeup examined them with barely concealed curiosity before directing them to wait outside an imposing double door. "Remember, let me do the talking," Emma whispered, straightening Lily's collar one last time. "Ms. Warren?" A young assistant appeared. "Mr. Brooks will see you now." The CEO's office was intimidatingly spacious, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. Nathan Brooks stood behind his desk, his tall figure silhouetted against the city skyline. His expression remained unreadable as Emma and Lily entered. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice measured and formal. He gestured toward the chairs across from his desk. "Please sit." Emma perched on the edge of her seat, hands folded tightly in her lap. Lily climbed onto the chair beside her, feet dangling above the floor. "Mr. Brooks, about yesterday," Emma began. "These are remarkable," he interrupted, sliding Lily's notes across the desk. "Your daughter captured details our international relations team missed in their last 3 calls with Mueller GmbH. Emma blinked, unprepared for this direction. "Tell me, Ms. Warren," Nathan continued, fixing her with his penetrating gaze. "Why is a Georgetown graduate with honors in international relations serving coffee in my company cafe?" The question hit like a physical blow. "How did you—" "I had HR pull your file this morning," he explained. "Along with your university records, fluent in 4 languages, finalist in the International Interpretation Competition, glowing recommendations from Professor Hargrove, who happens to be an old friend of mine." He leaned forward. "What I can't figure out is why someone with your qualifications hasn't been snatched up by the State Department or any number of multinational corporations." Emma swallowed hard. "Life took an unexpected turn during my senior year," she said, glancing at Lily. Understanding flickered in Nathan's eyes. "I see. I've applied to over 200 positions in my field," Emma continued. "But a new mother with no experience. Their loss." Nathan cut in, standing abruptly. "Ms. Warren, I have a proposition for you." He walked to a side table and returned with a contract. "Mueller GmbH is our most important potential European partner. We need someone with your exact skills for the next 3 months of negotiations. Someone who understands not just the language but the cultural nuances." Emma stared at the document he placed before her, unable to believe what she was hearing. "Temporary position, 3-month contract, with possibility for permanent placement," Nathan continued. "Salary 4 times your current wage, plus benefits." He glanced at Lily, who was watching him with curious eyes. "And perhaps most importantly, flexibility for your family obligations." Emma's breath caught in her throat. "Mr. Brooks, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Lily whispered, tugging at her mother's sleeve. Emma stared at the contract spread across her small kitchen table, the Broadway legal-sized paper looking absurdly out of place against the chipped formica surface. The streetlights outside, her Bronx apartment cast long shadows across the document's corporate letterhead as midnight approached. 4 times my current salary," she whispered to herself, tracing the number with her fingertip. The opportunity seemed heaven-sent, exactly what she had prayed for during countless nights over the past 5 years. Yet anxiety gnawed at her confidence. Could she truly step back into the corporate world after so long? The business terminology, the protocols, the expectations, all would have evolved since her university days. She flipped to page 3, where the confidentiality clause and penalties for breach of contract were outlined in intimidating legal language. Failure to perform adequately could result not just in termination but financial penalties she could never afford. "What are you still doing up, mija?" Mrs. Rodriguez's voice came from the doorway. The elderly woman had stopped by to drop off some homemade empanadas and found Emma still awake. "I received a job offer today," Emma said, pushing her hair back from her tired face. "A real position in my field, the one I trained for." Mrs. Rodriguez's weathered face broke into a wide smile. "Qué maravilloso, that's wonderful news." "It should be," Emma agreed, the hesitation clear in her voice. "But I'm terrified of failing, and the hours would be different. Sometimes late, sometimes with travel. I know you can't adjust your schedule to match." The older woman's smile faded slightly as she sat across from Emma. For 3 years, Mrs. Rodriguez had been their lifeline, watching Lily after school while Emma worked. Her fixed income meant she needed the small payment Emma provided, but her arthritis was worsening, making the longer hours impossible. "You've been preparing for this moment since I've known you," Mrs. Rodriguez said gently. "Every night studying, every resume sent, every interview that broke your heart, all for this chance." "But what if I'm not good enough anymore?" Emma whispered, voicing her deepest fear. "What if I've forgotten everything important? What if corporate America has no place for someone who's been serving coffee for 5 years?" The weight of single motherhood had been heavy enough. The weight of potentially failing at this opportunity felt crushing. From the small bedroom, a quiet voice called out, "Mama?" Emma looked up to see Lily standing in the doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit, her eyes puffy with interrupted sleep. "I'm sorry we woke you, sweetheart," Emma said, opening her arms. Lily padded across the worn linoleum and climbed into her mother's lap. Her small fingers traced the Brooks Enterprises logo on the contract. "Is this from the tall man?" she asked. "Yes," Emma confirmed. "Mr. Brooks offered Mama a new job. A better job." "Then why are you sad?" Lily asked, her 7-year-old perception cutting straight to the heart of the matter. Emma stroked her daughter's hair. "I'm not sad, just worried. It would change many things for us. My hours would be different. I might have to travel sometimes." "I can help," Lily declared with absolute conviction. "I can make my own lunch for school. I already know how to fold. Laundry?" Mrs. Rodriguez chuckled. "Such a little adult." "And remember what you always tell me when I'm scared of my math tests?" Lily continued, looking up at her mother with earnest blue eyes. "You say we'll never know what we can do until we try." Emma felt a lump forming in her throat as her own words came back to her through her daughter's innocent wisdom. "Maman," Lily added, switching to the German endearment. "You always said studying German would open doors for us someday." She pointed to the contract. "Isn't this the door?" A tear slipped down Emma's cheek as she held her daughter closer. The challenges ahead remained daunting. The corporate politics, the technical knowledge gaps, the childcare logistics. But in that moment, with Lily's simple faith in her, Emma felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope. "You're right," she whispered, kissing the top of Lily's head. "This is our door, and tomorrow we're going to walk through it." The morning sun illuminated the sleek glass of the Brooks Enterprises tower as Emma adjusted her blazer, a thrift store find that she'd carefully tailored the night before. Beside her, Lily wore her best dress, a hand-me-down from a school friend that Emma had pressed to perfection. "Remember what we practiced?" Emma asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Lily nodded solemnly. "I'll be on my best behavior. And if anyone asks why I'm here, I'll say we have a meeting about your contract." The elevator ride felt different, today, not as a waitress heading to the staff entrance, but as a professional walking through the main lobby, visitor badge clipped to her lapel. Nathan Brooks was reviewing documents when his assistant showed them in. His expression remained neutral, but Emma caught a flicker of approval at her professional appearance. "Ms. Warren," he acknowledged, rising. "I trust you've had time to review our offer." Emma set her worn leather portfolio on his desk and met his gaze directly. "I have, Mr. Brooks, and I appreciate the opportunity. However, before I can accept, there's something we need to discuss." A momentary frown crossed his face. Business leaders like Nathan Brooks weren't accustomed to conditions from potential employees, especially ones currently serving coffee. "I'm a single mother," Emma continued, her voice gaining strength. "While the salary is generous, the hours outlined in Section 7 would make it impossible for me to provide proper care for my daughter." Nathan's expression hardened slightly. "Ms. Warren, this position requires flexibility. The Mueller negotiations are time-sensitive, and I understand completely," Emma interrupted, surprising herself with her boldness. "And I'm prepared to be flexible." Late nights, early mornings, weekend work when necessary. I can manage all of that with proper planning. What I'm asking for is reciprocal flexibility. She slid a document across his desk, a modified schedule she'd spent half the night drafting. This alternative arrangement would allow me to fulfill all responsibilities while ensuring my daughter's needs are met. Nathan studied the proposal, his expression inscrutable. The silence stretched until Lily shifted uncomfortably beside her mother. Finally, he looked up, not at Emma, but at Lily. "Young lady, would you mind waiting outside with my assistant for a moment? There's a remarkable view of Central Park from the reception area." Once Lily had been escorted out, Nathan's professional facade softened slightly. He leaned back in his chair, studying Emma with renewed interest. "Did you know my mother was an immigrant, Ms. Warren?" The question caught her off guard. "No, sir. She came from Germany, with nothing but determination and 3 small children. My father abandoned us shortly after." His gaze drifted to a small silver frame on his desk that Emma hadn't noticed before. She worked 3 jobs while building a translation, business from our kitchen table. Emma remained silent, sensing this rare personal revelation wasn't finished. "Corporate America isn't designed for single parents," he continued, "especially mothers. The system expects total dedication with no acknowledgement of family responsibilities." His eyes returned to Emma's proposal. "This is actually quite brilliant. You found a way to fulfill all the essential functions while creating a sustainable schedule." He pressed the intercom. "Janet, please send Ms. Reeves from HR up immediately." When a polished woman in her 50s arrived minutes later, Nathan handed her Emma's proposal. "Ms. Reeves, please incorporate these scheduling accommodations into Ms. Warren's contract and add access to our executive childcare program." The HR director's eyebrows rose slightly. "Sir, that program is typically reserved for VP level and above. Consider it a special case," Nathan replied dismissively. "Ms. Warren's linguistic abilities are essential to the Mueller deal." After the HR director departed, Nathan extended his hand. "Welcome to Brooks Enterprises, Ms. Warren." As they shook hands, Emma noticed a striking woman watching through the glass wall of the office, her elegant suit and perfect blonde hair marking her as an executive. The woman's cool stare sent an involuntary shiver down Emma's spine. "Rebecca, Stephen's marketing director," Nathan explained, following her gaze. "You'll be working with her team occasionally." He hesitated, then added more quietly, "A word of advice, Rebecca had expressed interest in leading the Mueller project herself, and she's not accustomed to competition." Emma nodded, understanding the unspoken warning. She'd traded her waitress apron for a new battlefield, one where the stakes were higher and the opponents far more sophisticated. Emma's reflection in the elevator's polished doors showed a woman she barely recognized. Gone was the waitress uniform, replaced by a charcoal pencil skirt and cream blouse, all purchased from a consignment shop with her first advance payment. Her hair, usually pulled back in a practical ponytail, now fell in a professional bob. Around her shoulders, "4th floor International Relations Department," announced the elevator's automated voice. Taking a deep breath, Emma stepped into her new world. The bustling corporate floor was a stark contrast to the cafe's controlled chaos. Here everything moved with purpose. Analysts hurrying between glass-walled offices, the soft murmur of conference calls, the gentle tapping of keyboards. "Ms. Warren?" A young man approached with an eager smile. "I'm David Chen, junior analyst. Mr. Brooks asked me to show you to your office." Office. The word alone sent a thrill through Emma. Not a locker in the staff room, but her own professional space. It was modest by executive standards, but felt palatial to Emma. A desk with a computer, a small meeting table, and a window overlooking Madison Avenue. On the desk sat a stack of folders marked Confidential Mueller GmbH. "The team briefing starts in 20 minutes, David informed her. "Everyone's eager to meet you. It's not often we get someone who can speak German like a native." After he left, Emma sank into her chair, momentarily overwhelmed. She opened the top folder, scanning the technical specifications of Brooks Enterprises' latest semiconductor innovations. the technology they hoped to license to Muller GmbH. The terminology was dense, filled with industry jargon she'd never encountered in her academic German. By 10 p.m. that night, Emma's eyes burned from hours of reading technical documents. The executive childcare center had closed at 8, and Lily now dozed on the small couch in Emma's office, wrapped in Emma's cardigan. Still here? Nathan's voice startled her. He stood in the doorway, his tie loosened, looking slightly less intimidating than usual. I need to understand these specifications before tomorrow's preliminary call, Emma explained, gesturing to the scattered papers. The technical vocabulary is challenging. Nathan's gaze fell on Lily. The conference room has a better couch, he said after a moment. Bring your materials. I have time to walk you through the basics. For the next 2 hours, Nathan explained semiconductor manufacturing processes while Emma took meticulous notes, creating her own German-English technical glossary. His expertise was impressive, his explanations clear and patient. You're catching on remarkably fast, he observed as midnight approached. Thank you for taking the time, Emma replied, stifling a yawn. I know CEOs don't typically train new hires. Personally, a ghost of a smile touched his lips. This deal could transform Brooks Enterprises' European footprint. Consider it enlightened self-interest. The next morning's video conference was Emma's first real test. Heart-pounding, she translated the technical discussions between the Brooks team and Muller's German engineers. Though she stumbled occasionally over specialized terms, her linguistic instincts carried her through. After the call, David gave her a thumbs up. That was impressive. The Germans actually smiled. That's practically unheard of in preliminary negotiations. Days blurred into an exhausting routine. Emma spent nights studying technical documentation and business German, mornings in strategy, meetings and afternoons in video conferences with Muller GmbH. Lily adjusted surprisingly well to the corporate childcare center, making friends with executives' children who had previously seemed from a different world. One evening, as Emma worked late translating licensing terms, the office had fallen quiet except for the cleaning staff. The soft ding of the elevator announced a late visitor. To her surprise, it was Lily, escorted by a security guard. She was wandering near the executive floor, ma'am, the guard explained. Said she was looking for her mother. After thanking him, Emma knelt before her daughter. Sweetie, you know you're supposed to stay in the child care center until I pick you up. It closed an hour ago, Lily explained. Miss Jennifer called your phone, but you didn't answer, so she asked Mr. Brooks what to do, and he said to bring me to his office, but then he got called to an emergency meeting, so I decided to find you myself. Before Emma could respond, a deep voice interrupted. There you are, young lady. Nathan approached, his expression a mixture of concern and amusement. I've been looking everywhere for you. As he reached them, Lily looked up and spoke in careful German. Danke für Ihre Hilfe, Herr Brooks, aber Ihre Aussprache braucht etwas Übung. Nathan blinked. What did she say? Emma bit back a smile. She thanked you for your help, but suggested your pronunciation needs practice. To her surprise, Nathan threw back his head and laughed. The first genuine laugh she'd heard from him. Dark clouds gathered over Manhattan as Emma finished her translation of the latest contract amendments. Weather alerts had been buzzing on, phones throughout the office all afternoon, warning of a severe thunderstorm approaching the city. The German legal team wants another call tonight, David announced, poking his head into her office. They have concerns about the intellectual property clauses. Emma glanced at her watch with a frown. Tonight? But the storm? Everyone's staying. Late? David shrugged. Brooks wants this wrapped up before the Germans go on their August holidays. Conference room B at 7. As the meeting stretched past 9 o'clock, rain lashed against the windows while thunder rattled the glass. Emma translated complex legal arguments back and forth, her concentration absolute despite the storm raging outside. Tell them we'll consider their proposed amendments but need 24 hours to consult our legal department, Nathan instructed as they finally concluded the call. The team dispersed quickly, eager to navigate home before the subway flooded. Emma was gathering her notes when her phone rang, an unknown number. Ms. Warren? This is Jennifer from childcare. I'm with Lily at the medical office. Emma's heart stopped. Medical office, what happened? Nothing serious, Jennifer assured her. Lily developed a fever about an hour ago. The center's doctor checked her. Just a mild virus, but our protocol requires she be picked up immediately. I'll be right there, Emma promised, already gathering her things. As she rushed toward the elevator, the building's lights flickered ominously. The storm must be affecting the power grid. Going somewhere? Rebecca Stevens appeared in the hallway, her perfect blonde hair and immaculate suit making Emma acutely aware of her own rumpled appearance after the long day. My daughter is sick. I need to pick her up from childcare. Rebecca's perfectly shaped eyebrow arched. The Mueller team is sending their final questions tonight. Nathan expects responses by morning. I'll work on them from home, Emma assured her, jabbing the elevator button repeatedly. Without access to the confidential database? I don't think so. Rebecca's smile didn't reach her eyes. Family emergencies are inconvenient in our world, Emma. That's why most executives wait until they've established their careers before having children. Before Emma could respond, Nathan appeared around the corner. Rebecca, the Tokyo office is online too, he said, his tone making it clear the conversation was over. As Rebecca stalked away, Nathan turned to Emma. Problem? Lily has a fever. I need to get to the medical office. But the Mueller team... Go, he interrupted. I'll have someone bring you the files you need. The elevator finally arrived and Emma stepped in with a grateful nod. 20 minutes later, she sat beside a lethargic Lily in the corporate medical suite. The little girl's cheeks were flushed, her normally bright eyes glassy with fever. It's just a virus, the doctor reassured Emma. Keep her hydrated and she'll be fine in a day or two. As Emma struggled to contact an Uber, all drivers busy during the storm, the suite's door opened. To her astonishment, Nathan Brooks entered, raindrops glistening on his impeccable suit. How is she? He asked, his voice uncharacteristically gentle. Just a fever, Emma answered, confused by his presence. The doctor says she'll be fine. Nathan nodded, then addressed Lily directly. I heard you weren't feeling well, Miss Warren. I thought you might need a ride home in this storm. Emma began to protest. That's really not necessary. My driver is waiting downstairs, Nathan continued, ignoring her objection. The streets are flooding and cabs are impossible tonight. In the back of Nathan's luxury sedan, Lily dozed against Emma's shoulder while rain hammered the roof. The silence between the adults felt strangely comfortable until Nathan spoke. Mother raised 3 of us alone, he said quietly, watching the rain streak the windows. When I was 8, my brother got pneumonia during a blizzard. No car, no way to get help. Emma turned to him, catching a glimpse of old pain in his profile. What happened? An elderly neighbor, a man my mother had helped with translations, walked 3 miles in the snow to bring a doctor to our apartment. Nathan's voice softened with the memory. She never forgot that kindness. Taught us that real success isn't just what you achieve, but how you treat others along the way. As the car pulled up to Emma's modest apartment building, Nathan hesitated, then added, My mother would have liked you, Emma. For the first time, he'd used her first name, a small bridge across the professional distance between them. Autumn painted Central Park in fiery hues as Emma stood by the window of conference room A, taking a moment to compose her thoughts before the day's critical meeting. 8 weeks into her position, she had proven herself invaluable to the Mueller negotiations, earning respect from both the American and German teams. Ready for the big presentation? David asked, arranging folders at the conference table. Emma nodded, smoothing her new charcoal suit, her first full-price professional purchase made possible by her recent performance bonus. Today she would present her translation of the final licensing agreement, a document that had taken her countless late nights to perfect. As executives filed in, Emma noticed Rebecca Stevens watching her with calculated interest. Since their hallway encounter during the storm, Rebecca had maintained a cool professionalism that barely masked her resentment. Emma had learned from office whispers that Rebecca had pursued Nathan romantically for years without success, and now viewed Emma's rising influence as a threat both professionally and personally. Nathan arrived last, nodding briefly to Emma as he took his seat at the head of the table. Their relationship had evolved into a respectful partnership, though both carefully maintained professional boundaries despite the growing personal connection neither acknowledged aloud. "Let's begin," Nathan announced. "Ms. Warren, your presentation, please." Emma distributed the meticulously prepared folders containing the final agreement translations. As she reached Rebecca's seat, the marketing director shifted suddenly, sending her coffee cup toppling directly onto Emma's papers. "Oh, how clumsy of me," Rebecca exclaimed with rehearsed concern. "I'm so terribly sorry." The brown liquid saturated, the documents rendering weeks of work illegible. Emma froze, staring at the ruined papers while conversations halted around the table. She caught Rebecca's satisfied smirk before it vanished behind a mask of apology. Nathan frowned. "Perhaps we should reschedule." "That won't be necessary," Emma interrupted, surprising herself with her steady voice. "I have the entire document committed to memory." Without waiting for a response, she launched into the presentation, navigating the complex agreement without a single reference note. Section by section, clause by clause, she explained the technical and legal nuances in both English and German, watching the executive's expressions shift from skepticism to amazement. When she finished 40 minutes later, the room remained silent, for a moment before erupting in applause. Even Rebecca couldn't maintain her composure, her tight smile failing to mask her disbelief. "Excellent work, Ms. Warren," Nathan said formally, though his eyes conveyed deeper appreciation. "This agreement positions us perfectly for next week's final meeting in Berlin." As the executives filed out, Nathan lingered. "Join me for coffee? I believe you've earned a break." At a small cafe across from the park, away from corporate eyes, Emma finally relaxed. "I thought I was finished when those papers were ruined," she admitted. "I never doubted you," Nathan replied, stirring his espresso. "Though I admit I'm curious how someone memorizes a 40-page legal document." Emma smiled. "I've always had a good memory for languages. In university, I developed a visualization technique for memorizing diplomatic texts. Each page becomes a room in my mind, each paragraph a piece of furniture." "Remarkable," Nathan murmured. "Your talents are wasted on mere interpretation." "What do you mean?" Nathan leaned forward. "You have a gift, Emma, not just for languages, but for connecting with people across cultural divides. Our German partners respond to you in a way they never have with previous interpreters." Emboldened by his praise and the distance from corporate formalities, Emma shared the dream she'd kept private for years. "Before Lily, I wanted to create an educational program for underprivileged children, teaching languages as a pathway to opportunity. Not just vocabulary and grammar, but cultural understanding, the kind that opens doors internationally." "Like you've done for Lily," Nathan observed. "Yes. Children from low-income families rarely get exposure to foreign languages until high school or college, too late to develop true fluency. But children Lily's age can absorb languages effortlessly, especially when taught through stories and songs." Nathan's expression softened. "My mother would have loved that idea. She was a German teacher before immigrating here." "You never mentioned that," Emma said, surprised. "She dreamed of starting an educational foundation," he continued, a shadow crossing his features. "After she died 5 years ago, I buried myself in work instead of pursuing her vision." 5 years ago," Emma echoed. "That's when Lily was born, when I became a single mother." Their eyes met across the table, the parallel timing of their life-changing events hanging in the air between them, his loss and her beginning occurring in the same moment in time. "But why can't I go to Berlin with you?" Lily's question hung in the air as Emma carefully folded business attire into her suitcase. The upcoming trip, her first international business journey representing Brooks Enterprises, had become a source of unexpected tension. "It's a business trip, sweetheart," Emma explained patiently. "You have school and I'll be in meetings all day long." Lily's lower lip trembled slightly. "But Mrs. Peterson said we're doing our heritage presentations next week. Everyone else has." their parents helping them. Emma paused, guilt washing over her. Lily's class was presenting on their cultural backgrounds, and the German heritage from her absent father was Lily's chosen topic. For weeks, they'd practiced a German poem together for the presentation. "Mrs. Rodriguez will help you practice your poem," Emma offered, though she knew it wasn't the same. The doorbell interrupted their conversation. Emma wasn't expecting visitors, especially on a Sunday evening. She opened the door to find Nathan standing there, looking unusually casual in dark jeans and a sweater rather than his typical suit. "Nathan," she said, surprised by his use of her home address. "Is everything all right?" "Everything's fine," he assured her, holding up a folder. "There was a last-minute change to the Mueller proposal. I thought you might want to review it before our flight tomorrow." His eyes moved past her to Lily, who was watching curiously from the living room. "Hello there, Miss Warren." "Guten Abend, Herr Brooks," Lily replied with perfect pronunciation. A smile touched Nathan's lips. "Your German is still better than mine, I see." Emma invited him in, acutely aware of her small apartment with its mismatched furniture and worn carpet, a stark contrast to what must be his luxurious home. "Would you like some tea?" she offered. "It's nothing fancy, but—" "Tea would be perfect," he said, seeming completely at ease as he took a seat at their small kitchen table. While Emma prepared the tea, Lily approached Nathan with a serious expression. "Mr. Brooks, my mother says she has to go to Berlin without me." "That's usually how business trips work," Nathan replied gently. "But I need her for my heritage presentation," Lily continued, showing him her school assignment. "Everyone is bringing special things from their culture, and I was going to recite a German poem that Mutti taught me." Nathan studied the assignment with genuine interest. "This looks important. When is your presentation?" "Wednesday at 2:00, Lily answered promptly. "Mutti will be in Berlin." Emma returned with the tea, catching the end of their conversation. "Lily, I've already explained. What if we rearrange the schedule?" Nathan interrupted, turning to Emma. "The Mueller team doesn't arrive until Wednesday evening. We could attend an important school presentation and still make it back for the negotiations." Emma stared at him in disbelief. "You would reschedule? A multi-million-dollar international negotiation for a second-grade presentation?" Nathan shrugged, the gesture surprisingly boyish for someone of his position. "It's not rescheduling, just optimizing our time. We could take the morning flight Tuesday, return Wednesday afternoon for Lily's presentation, then head back for Thursday's meetings." Later, after Lily had gone to bed and they'd reviewed the contract changes, Emma walked Nathan to the door. "Thank you," she said quietly, "not just for the schedule change, but for understanding how important this is to her." Nathan's expression grew thoughtful. "My father walked out when I was 7. Every school event, I'd scan the audience hoping he'd appear." He shook his head, dispelling the memory. "Children remember who shows up for them." As he prepared to leave, he reached into his pocket. "I almost forgot. This is for you." He handed her a small velvet box. Inside was an elegant silver brooch in the shape of a musical note, set with a small sapphire. "It was my mother's," he explained at her questioning look. "She wore it to every important negotiation. Said it reminded her that communication is, like music, it's not just about the words but how they flow together." Emma tried to protest. "Nathan, I can't accept something so personal." "Please," he said simply. She would have wanted it worn by someone who understands the power of languages to build bridges. As Emma watched him leave, Rebecca's warning echoed in her mind that Nathan had a history of brief romances with employees that always ended with discreet dismissals. Yet something about the brooch felt different. Not romantic, but a transmission of legacy, a silent promise of something neither of them was ready to name. The Berlin conference room exuded old-world European elegance, with its high ceilings, heavy draperies, and antique furniture that contrasted sharply with the sleek modernism of Brooks Enterprises' New York offices. Emma stood by the window looking out at the familiar Berlin skyline. 7 years had passed since she last walked these streets as a carefree exchange student, before pregnancy and single motherhood redirected her life. The Mueller team should be here any minute, David remarked, arranging portfolios at each seat. Their legal department is notoriously punctual. Emma touched the silver musical note brooch pinned to her lapel, drawing comfort from its presence. After Lily's triumphant heritage presentation yesterday, where the 7-year-old had performed her German poem flawlessly before rushing into her mother's arms, Emma and Nathan had immediately boarded the overnight flight back to Berlin. Despite her exhaustion, she felt prepared for today's crucial negotiation. The double doors opened, and Emma turned to greet the Mueller GmbH representatives, only to feel her world tilt off its axis. Leading the German delegation was a tall man, with familiar blue eyes that she would recognize anywhere. The same eyes that looked back at her from Lily's face every day. Thomas Bauer, Lily's father. Emma fought to keep her expression neutral as the Germans made their introductions. Thomas showed no sign of recognizing her at first, his eyes passing over her with professional disinterest as Nathan introduced their team. And this is Emma Warren, our Director of International Relations and lead interpreter for these negotiations, Nathan concluded. Thomas's handshake was firm and impersonal until their eyes met directly. A flicker of recognition crossed his face, followed quickly by confusion and then something darker, discomfort, perhaps even fear. Fräulein Warren, he said stiffly. You speak German, I understand. Ja, Herr Bauer, Emma replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Ich habe in Berlin studiert, an der Humboldt-Universität. A muscle twitched in Thomas's jaw. Ah, a fellow Humboldt alumnus. What a small world. Throughout the morning session, Emma maintained her professionalism, translating complex technical specifications and legal terminology with precision. Yet she couldn't help noticing how Thomas grew increasingly agitated, especially when she and Nathan displayed the easy rapport they had developed over months of working together. During the lunch break, Nathan pulled Emma aside. Is everything all right? You seem tense. I'm fine, she assured him, unwilling to complicate the negotiations with personal history. Just tired from the travel. As the afternoon session began, Thomas abruptly shifted tactics. Instead of the straightforward business German he'd used that morning, he began employing obscure regional expressions and archaic business terminology, speaking rapidly to his colleagues with obvious intent to confuse the American team. He's asking about additional licensing restrictions, Emma translated smoothly, catching Thomas's surprised look. He's concerned that the proposed arrangement gives Brooks Enterprises too much leverage in EU markets. Nathan leaned toward her. How do you suggest we respond? Drawing on her knowledge of German business culture, Emma whispered advice that balanced firmness with cultural sensitivity. Nathan nodded and delivered a counter-proposal that caused visible surprise among the German delegation. We understand your concerns about market positioning, Nathan stated while Emma translated into flawless German. Therefore, we propose a staged implementation with regional considerations for the German Mittelstand companies that form the backbone of your supply chain. The reference to Mittelstand, Germany's treasured small and medium-sized family businesses, struck exactly the right cultural note. The German executives exchanged impressed glances, while Thomas's face darkened. As the day progressed, Thomas grew increasingly frustrated by his inability to create miscommunication. His final attempt came during discussion of the financial terms when he used a particularly obscure banking idiom with an ambiguous meaning. Without hesitation, Emma provided both the literal translation and the contextual significance. Herr Bauer is suggesting that the payment structure resembles a fox guarding the henhouse, an idiom implying that our oversight provisions give us too much control over their financial reporting. Nathan smiled. Perhaps we could suggest an independent auditor acceptable to both parties, a neutral watchdog rather than a fox. The German team chuckled appreciatively at the wordplay, and even Thomas couldn't maintain his hostility in the face of such deft cultural navigation. By day's end, the agreement was tentatively approved pending final review by both companies' legal teams. As the Germans gathered their materials to leave, Thomas approached Emma while Nathan was engaged with other executives. A word in private, Fräulein Warren, he requested coldly. In a quiet corner of the conference room, Thomas dropped his professional veneer. What game are you playing, Emma? You never mentioned working for Brooks Enterprises. I had no idea you worked for Muller GmbH, she replied truthfully. It's been 7 years, Thomas. People move on. His eyes narrowed. Is this some kind of revenge? Using old connections to secure this deal? Emma stared at him incredulously. Revenge? You disappeared the moment I told you I was pregnant. You blocked my calls and emails. And now you're using your relationship with Brooks to push through this deal, he accused, glancing toward Nathan. How convenient. That's absurd, Emma replied, keeping her voice low but firm. This deal stands on its commercial merits. Thomas leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. End this negotiation, or I'll ensure everyone knows about your previous work translating for Schaefer Industries, Miller's direct competitor. Industrial espionage carries serious penalties in Germany. Emma felt the blood drain from her face. Her brief student translation job for Schaefer had been completely legitimate, and years before any connection to Brooks Enterprises, but Thomas was threatening to twist the facts into something sinister. That's blackmail, she managed. It's business, Thomas replied coldly. You have until tomorrow to find a way to derail this deal, or your reputation won't be the only thing damaged. As he walked away, Emma clutched the edge of the conference table, her mind racing. The brief translation job during her student days had been innocent, but how would it look to Nathan and the board if Thomas manufactured a scandal? Emma paced the length of her hotel room, Thomas's threat echoing in her mind. The digital clock on the nightstand showed 2:17 a.m., yet sleep remained impossibly distant. In 12 hours, the final negotiation session would begin, and she needed to make a decision. Her student translation work for Schaefer Industries had been completely legitimate, a simple 3-week project translating product manuals during her exchange program. Nothing confidential, nothing that could possibly be considered corporate espionage. But Thomas had powerful connections and a vested interest in destroying her credibility. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Opening the door, she found Nathan standing in the hallway, his tie loosened, looking as sleepless as she felt. I saw the light under your door, he explained. Thought you might be reviewing the final amendments, too. Emma hesitated, then stepped aside to let him in. The professional boundary they'd maintained seemed suddenly fragile in the middle of the night, in a foreign country, away from corporate scrutiny. Something's been off since the moment we met the Muller team, Nathan observed, taking a seat by the window. And it has nothing to do with contract terms. Emma's hands trembled slightly as she sat across from him. There's something I need to tell you, and it might jeopardize the entire deal. Drawing a deep breath, she revealed everything. Her relationship with Thomas during her exchange program, his abandonment when she told him about the pregnancy, and now his threat to fabricate an industrial espionage scandal if she didn't help collapse the negotiations. I did work briefly for Schaefer Industries as a student translator, she concluded. Nothing confidential, just basic product manuals, but Thomas is threatening to twist the facts. Nathan's expression remained unreadable. Why didn't you tell me he was Lily's father before the negotiation? I had no idea he worked for Muller, Emma answered truthfully. He was a graduate student when I knew him, and... She hesitated. I was afraid it would disqualify me from the project. Nathan stood and walked to the window, looking out at the Berlin skyline illuminated by the moon. The silence stretched between them until Emma couldn't bear it. I'll resign from the project immediately, she offered. You can tell the board there was a conflict of interest. No, Nathan interrupted, turning back to her. That's exactly what Bauer wants. He's trying to manipulate you and by extension our company. He returned to his seat, leaning forward intently. Emma, did you ever share any information about Brooks Enterprises with Bauer? Any details about our technology or business strategy? Absolutely not, she responded without hesitation. I hadn't even heard of Brooks Enterprises when I knew him, and I haven't had any contact with him in 7 years. Nathan nodded, his decision apparently made. Then we proceed with the negotiation as planned. But his threat is empty, Nathan finished. Our legal team thoroughly investigated all key personnel involved in this deal, including you. If there had been any legitimate conflict of interest or security concern, it would have been flagged. Months ago, he reached for his phone. And as for Bauer's threat, two can play at that game. Early the next morning, Emma entered the conference room with apprehension that slowly turned to confusion. Thomas Bauer was noticeably absent from the Miller delegation. Herr Bauer has been recalled to Munich for an urgent internal matter, explained Dr. Schmidt, Muller's silver-haired CFO. I will be leading today's session. The negotiations proceeded smoothly, with Emma translating complex technical terms while maintaining her professional composure, despite her inner turmoil. By lunchtime, both sides had reached agreement on all major points. As the German team left for their midday break, Nathan guided Emma to a private meeting room. Thomas Bauer won't be troubling you again, he said without preamble. Emma searched his face. What did you do? Let's just say our financial due diligence team found some interesting irregularities in Bauer's department. Nothing that affects the overall deal, but enough to raise serious questions about his personal financial management. You threatened him, Emma realized. Nathan's expression hardened slightly. I protected my company and my team from a bad faith actor. Bauer was willing to sabotage a multi-million-dollar deal beneficial to both companies, just to settle a personal score. He handed her a folder. Our investigators compiled this after you told me about Bauer's threat. His department has been falsifying expense reports for years with the money flowing to a private account in Liechtenstein. Emma skimmed the documents with growing disbelief. Does Mueller know? They do now, Nathan confirmed. I shared the findings with Dr. Schmidt this morning, which explains Bauer's sudden recall to headquarters. Emma closed the folder, unsure how to feel. Relief mingled with unease at the swift, calculated way Nathan had neutralized the threat. This doesn't solve everything, she said quietly. Thomas is still Lily's father, biologically at least. Nathan's expression softened. That's a separate issue, one that you'll need to address when we return home. But for now, the professional threat has been handled. As they prepared to return to the conference room, Emma's phone chimed with a text from Mrs. Rodriguez. Apartment flooding from upstairs pipe burst. Saved important documents and photos. Everything else soaked. Don't worry, Lily's safe with me. Attached was a photo showing water pouring from her apartment ceiling, soaking the furniture and possessions accumulated over years of single motherhood. Nathan, she called, her voice strained. I need to get back to New York immediately. My apartment. He looked over her shoulder at the devastating image. We'll take my private jet as soon as we sign the agreement. 2 hours. Maximum. Emma nodded gratefully, tucking away her phone and straightening her shoulders. She had survived Thomas's threat and would deal with the apartment disaster too. For now, she had a negotiation to complete, the culmination of months of work and preparation. As she pinned Nathan's mother's brooch to her lapel, Emma realized that beneath her anxiety lay something unexpected. Confidence. Whatever challenges came next, she would face them with the same determination that had carried her through the past 7 years. It's really not as bad as it looks, Emma insisted, though the statement rang hollow as she surveyed her ruined apartment. Water-damaged furniture, warped floorboards, and the unmistakable smell of mildew greeted them upon their return from Berlin. Mrs. Rodriguez had worked miracles, rescuing photo albums, important documents, and Lily's favorite stuffed rabbit, but nearly everything else, clothing, books, furniture, had suffered severe water damage from the burst pipe in the upstairs apartment. The landlord says it'll take at least 2 months to repair, Mrs. Rodriguez explained, as Lily clung to her, and insurance should cover some things, but Nathan stood in the doorway, taking in the scene with a grim expression. He'd insisted on driving Emma and Lily from the airport, despite having just completed an exhausting international negotiation and flight. You can't stay here, he stated definitively, his tone leaving no room for argument. The building inspector has already declared it uninhabitable. Emma ran her hand through her hair, mentally calculating their options. Hotels were prohibitively expensive for an extended stay. Most of her friends lived in tiny New York apartments without space for overnight guests. let alone a mother and child for months. We'll find something, she said, more to reassure Lily than out of any real conviction. I have a suggestion, Nathan offered, his voice carefully neutral. The Brooks family residence has a fully furnished guest apartment. It's separate from the main house with its own entrance. It's yours until your apartment is repaired. Emma began to protest, but he continued. Before you argue about professional boundaries, consider this a company accommodation for an executive whose presence is required during the post-negotiation implementation phase. 3 hours later, Emma stood in the middle of what Nathan had modestly called a guest apartment. In reality, a beautifully appointed 3-bedroom suite in the east wing of his historic Upper East Side brownstone. The space featured gleaming hardwood floors, tall windows overlooking a private garden, and furniture that probably cost more than everything she had ever owned. This was originally my mother's art studio, Nathan explained as he showed them around. After she died, I had it converted to guest quarters, but no one really uses it. Lily had already claimed a bedroom with wide-eyed excitement, bouncing experimentally on the queen-sized bed. Mutti, it's like a hotel but better. Later, after Lily had finally fallen asleep in her new surroundings, Emma found Nathan in the garden, nursing a glass of scotch in the cool autumn air. Thank you, she said simply, taking the seat beside him. For everything. The apartment, handling Thomas, the deal. He waved away her gratitude. The Mueller agreement was a team effort. Your skills made it possible. Still, opening your home to us. Emma hesitated. People at the office will talk. A wry smile touched his lips. People always talk. Rebecca has already started spreading rumors. Emma winced. I was afraid of that. It doesn't matter, Nathan said dismissively. The board unanimously approved your permanent position as Director of International Relations this morning. Your performance in Berlin impressed everyone, even those who were initially skeptical about promoting a former waitress. Emma's eyes widened. Permanent position? But my contract has been replaced with a standard executive agreement, Nathan finished, handing her an envelope. Same confidentiality provisions, considerably better compensation and benefits. Emma opened the envelope with trembling fingers, scanning the details of an offer that would transform her and Lily's financial future. This is generous. It's market rate for someone with your skills, Nathan corrected. The company is lucky to have you. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. The city sounds muffled by the garden walls. Something had shifted between them during the Berlin crisis. A deepening of trust, a recognition of mutual respect that went beyond their professional roles. Lily seems to have adapted quickly, Nathan observed, changing the subject. Emma smiled. Children are remarkably resilient. I worry that she's becoming too attached to all this, though. She gestured to the elegant surroundings. Our reality is a bit different. Is it? Nathan asked quietly. Sometimes circumstances change. Sometimes people find where they truly belong. His words hung in the air between them, laden with unspoken meaning. Emma studied his profile in the garden lights, the strong jawline, the thoughtful eyes that had first intimidated her, but now reflected something warmer. Nathan, she began cautiously, I need to be clear about something. I'm grateful for everything you've done, but I don't want you to feel obligated. Stop, he interrupted gently. Whatever you're about to say, it's unnecessary. I help because I want to, not out of obligation. He turned to face her fully. These past months, watching you balance single motherhood with professional excellence, seeing your dedication to Lily while excelling at a demanding career, it's been illuminating. Illuminating, Emma echoed. Nathan set down his glass. I've built a successful company, but my personal life has been empty. Relationships have always seemed secondary to business goals. He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. I'm not proposing anything specific, Emma, just acknowledging that having you and Lily here, even temporarily, it feels right in a way that nothing has since my mother died. Emma felt her heart racing. What exactly are you saying? That I'm open to possibilities, he answered simply. that I value what we've built professionally and what might develop personally. And that there's no rush. We have time to see where this leads. The night air carried the scent of autumn. Flowers as they sat together. The comfortable silence between them filled with new potential. From inside came the faint sound of Lily turning in her sleep, safe and secure in their temporary haven. For the first time in years, Emma allowed herself to imagine a future different from the one she'd carefully planned. A future where she wasn't alone in facing life's challenges, where Lily had more than just a mother to guide her. The possibility both thrilled and terrified her. Time, she finally agreed, her voice soft but steady. Time sounds perfect. 6 months had transformed Emma's life beyond recognition. The Brooks Enterprises auditorium buzzed with excitement as she adjusted her graduation cap, the blue tassel of the executive leadership program catching the light. Through the crowd, she spotted Nathan in the front row, his presence both professional and personal, the line between the two having softened over their months of shared domesticity. Next to the podium, Emma Warren, valedictorian of this year's executive leadership cohort, announced the program director. Taking a deep breath, Emma approached the microphone. The faces before her included board members, colleagues, and in the center, Lily beaming with pride beside Mrs. Rodriguez. When I joined Brooks Enterprises, I was serving coffee in the company cafe, Emma began, her voice steady. Today, I lead our European division because someone saw potential where others saw limitations. Her gaze met Nathan's briefly. Success isn't just about individual achievement. It's about creating opportunities for others to rise. Emma revealed the project she'd been developing secretly for months, a scholarship program offering language, education to underprivileged children, providing the same opportunities she'd given Lily. Today, I'm honored to announce the launch of our pilot program in the Bronx, offering immersive language education to 20 children from low-income communities. Applause rippled through the audience, but Nathan's voice cut through as he stood, unexpectedly. "If I may," he said, approaching the stage. "Brooks Enterprises is proud to announce that Ms. Warren's initiative will become the cornerstone of our new educational foundation." Murmurs of surprise filled the room as Nathan continued. The Warren Brooks Foundation will open its first full-scale educational center next month, with Emma serving as co-director alongside her international relations duties. The announcement brought thunderous applause from everyone except Rebecca Stevens, whose tight smile couldn't mask her displeasure at the public recognition of Emma's rise. Later, during the reception, Emma's phone chimed with an unexpected email. The sender's name made her breath catch, Thomas Bauer. With trembling fingers, she opened it to find a formal letter addressed to Lily, acknowledging his paternity and expressing desire for a supervised meeting. "Everything okay?" Nathan asked. Appearing at her side with 2 champagne flutes, Emma showed him the message. "After all this time, why now?" Nathan considered the email thoughtfully. "Perhaps seeing you succeed triggered something. Or maybe he's trying to make amends." "I don't know if I can forgive him," Emma admitted. "The question is whether Lily deserves to know her father," Nathan replied gently. "Forgiveness is separate from that right." As the celebration continued around them, Emma watched Lily charming board members with her bilingual skills, now expanded to include basic Spanish from the company's educational program. The little girl who had answered a phone call in German had unknowingly changed both their lives forever, creating ripples that now extended to dozens of other children who would receive similar opportunities through the foundation. 1 year later, golden autumn sunlight streamed through stained glass windows as Emma walked down the aisle in a simple ivory gown. Instead of a traditional bridal march, Lily preceded her, reading a bilingual poem in German and English that brought tears to the eyes of the small gathering of friends and colleagues. "Love builds bridges between worlds," the 8-year-old concluded, her clear voice echoing in the intimate chapel where Nathan waited with a smile that belonged only to his new family. The ceremony was brief and heartfelt, a celebration not of fairy tale romance, but of a partnership built on mutual respect, shared values, and the genuine love that had grown between them during their months of working and living together. 3 weeks after returning from their honeymoon in Germany, Emma stood beside Nathan and Lily at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Warren Brooks Foundation's first educational center. Located in Emma's old Bronx neighborhood, the renovated building featured bright classrooms, a library stocked with multilingual books, and a community gathering space. This was once an abandoned warehouse, Emma explained to the gathered community members and press. Today, it's the beginning of a dream, that every child, regardless of background, deserves the opportunity to become a global citizen through language education. The first 100 scholarship recipients, children from the neighborhood's most underserved families, explored their new classrooms with wide-eyed wonder. Among the staff, Emma spotted familiar faces: Mrs. Rodriguez, now the community outreach coordinator, and several of her former cafe colleagues who had been hired for administrative roles. "Mrs. Brooks Warren?" called a young reporter. "What inspired this foundation?" Emma smiled at the new hyphenated surname she was still getting used to. "A little girl who answered a phone in German and changed everything," she answered, squeezing Lily's shoulder gently. That evening, as they celebrated, in their new home, a brownstone not far from Nathan's family residence, a special delivery arrived. Inside the package was a generous donation for the foundation and a note from Thomas Bauer. After 3 carefully supervised visits with Lily over the past year, Thomas had slowly earned a place in her life, not as the father who would raise her, but as a connection to her heritage and an additional adult who cared about her future. "He's trying," Nathan observed as Emma read the note. "In his own way." Emma nodded, watching Lily show Mrs. Rodriguez photographs from their recent visit to Thomas in Berlin. The relationship was complicated, imperfect, but ultimately beneficial for Lily, who now had a broader sense of identity and family. Later, as Emma tucked Lily into bed, the little girl asked sleepily, "Are you happy, Mutti?" Emma brushed back her daughter's hair, remembering the frightened single mother who had once struggled to pay rent while serving coffee to executives. "Happier than I ever imagined possible," she answered truthfully. Downstairs, Nathan was reviewing applications for the foundation's next expansion, a second center planned for Washington Heights. Their professional partnership continued alongside their marriage, each strengthening the other as they built something meaningful together. "Ready for tomorrow's board presentation?" Nathan asked as she joined him. Emma nodded, settling beside him with her own stack of documents. "Ready for everything that comes next," she replied, their hands intertwining naturally as they worked into the evening. The Warren Brooks Foundation's main hall buzzed with anticipation as international executives and community leaders mingled, beneath elegant banners displaying the foundation's motto in multiple languages: "Languages bridge worlds." 2 years after its inaugural center opened, the foundation was hosting its most significant event yet, the announcement of an international partnership program. Emma, now confidently directing both the foundation and Brooks Enterprises' European division, surveyed the gathering with quiet pride. Her gaze fell on Lily, now 10 years old, expertly guiding guests through the student showcase where children from the foundation presented projects in their newly acquired languages. "Mrs. Brooks Warren?" A young assistant approached. "The Mueller GmbH delegation has arrived." Emma nodded, smoothing her tailored suit. Thomas Bauer had retired from Miller 6 months earlier, replaced by Dr. Schmidt's protege Dieter Hoffmann. The change had facilitated a healing of corporate relations that paralleled the careful personal boundaries Emma had established with Thomas regarding his relationship with Lily. "Emma," Nathan called, making his way through the crowd with their 18-month-old son, James, perched on his shoulders. The toddler's dark hair and serious expression mimicked his father's, though his bright blue eyes were all Emma's. "The board members are impressed," Nathan reported, lifting James down into Emma's waiting arms, especially with the immersion program results. Emma kissed her son's forehead, marveling at how naturally Nathan had adapted to fatherhood. The corporate titan who once intimidated everyone around him now regularly adjusted meetings around preschool, pickups, and bedtime stories. As the formal presentation began, Emma took the podium with Nathan at her side, their professional partnership as seamless as their personal one. 2 years ago, we opened our doors to 100 children, Emma began. Today, over 500 students across 3 centers are receiving multilingual education that will open doors throughout their lives. Nathan continued. Today, we're proud to announce the International Partnership Initiative, connecting our New York centers with similar programs in Berlin, Madrid, and Tokyo. The announcement drew enthusiastic applause, particularly from the German delegation. The foundation had become a passion project for both Emma and Nathan, informing their corporate strategy as Brooks Enterprises increasingly focused on educational technology alongside its traditional manufacturing base. As the formal portion concluded, Lily appeared with a surprise, a video compilation showing foundation students singing in German and English, their young voices blending in perfect harmony. Lily organized this herself, Emma whispered to Nathan as their daughter confidently introduced the presentation. She's got your leadership instincts. Nathan's arm tightened around her waist. And your heart. Later, as the event wound down, Emma found herself standing in the exact spot where the foundation's first center had opened 2 years earlier. The formerly abandoned warehouse had transformed into a vibrant educational hub where children from backgrounds similar to hers received opportunities she had once only dreamed of providing. Penny, for your thoughts? Nathan asked, joining her. I was just thinking about how it all started, Emma replied. One phone call in German, answered by a little girl hiding in a cafe corner. The best investment Brooks Enterprises ever made, Nathan said with a smile. Mom, Lily called, rushing over with excitement. Mr. Hoffman wants me to help with the Berlin summer exchange program. He says my German is better than the high school students they usually hire. As Lily detailed the opportunity, Emma exchanged a glance with Nathan. Their daughter was growing into a confident young woman, already showing the same determination and linguistic gifts that had changed Emma's life. The grand reception hall hummed with multiple languages, English, German, Spanish, Japanese, as students demonstrated their skills for impressed international executives. What had begun as Emma's desperate effort to create opportunity for her daughter had expanded to touch hundreds of lives. You know, Nathan said quietly as they watched Lily explain the program to James in simplified German. My mother used to say that true success isn't measured by what you achieve for yourself, but by the doors you open for others. Emma leaned into his embrace, watching the living embodiment of their shared vision unfold around them. I think we've opened quite a few doors. And walked through the most important one together, Nathan added, kissing her temple gently. Around them, the future they had built together, both professional and personal, continued to flourish, a testament to the unexpected paths that open when courage meets opportunity, and when love provides the foundation for building bridges between worlds.